All right, good afternoon. This is Max with Hutchinson Construction. I'm the logistics and supply manager here. Here's one of our pieces of equipment, what we use on the daily. It's our biggest owned dozer. It's a 850L WLT. It's the type of version it is. It has 225 horsepower to it. It has a 24 volt system. It does have 116 gallons, one of the biggest tanks we've got on fuel. It is our workhorse. It pushes a lot. So it has a blade of 14 foot wide, 4 foot tall, and has a capacity of 5.9 cubic yards in front of it that they can just push. This does have an integrated GPS system, so unlike our 750, our old one that has a mast, it's already installed and it's on top. So we don't have to worry about damaging it or anything else. It's that little ball that's right up there on the top right there. So it comes in with a couple little extra features because it's already integrated. We don't have to worry about wiring going bad or loose things. It's a lot less maintenance on the piece of equipment for it to be already integrated into the machine. It is a 2022, so it's a newer machine of ours. Its operating weight is around 50,325 pounds. On the back, it does have rippers. Unlike the 750 that has 3, we make sure this one has 5 because we just really want to get that water in there when we're moisture conditioning. It's 7.1 feet wide and about 1.5 foot spacing between each one of them rippers. They can penetrate down about 28.5 inches, but we usually only go down about 12 inches because that's what our MC requires. All right, this is one of our most common pieces of used equipment. Big thing that we like to try to do is keep our idle times down on it low. We get to see on our operations center how often it's idling, but we try to keep that below 20%. So we want this machine utilized at all times. You can find a lot of information about this machine online or through your local RDO rep. But if you have any, unique questions or, something you've ran into, we use it every day. It's a common piece. Please leave a comment down below and we'll be more than happy to, respond and talk to you about it.
Welcome everybody to the Civil Matters Podcast, episode 11. And today we have my good friend, Jordan Alford. Welcome, Jordan.
Thanks.
You mind if I could just call you Jordy?
Love it.
Okay, Jordy. You want to just kind of take a minute, introduce yourself, explain to people what your role is, the company you're at, and give us a brief history of your career, your life, whatever you want to share to get to that point.
Absolutely. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be on here and to visit with you, Joe. Looking forward to it. So currently I am the senior EVP for Beta Engineering. We are based in Central Louisiana is our headquarters. We've got offices on the West Coast. We do work border to border and coast to coast. We are a high voltage EPC company, engineering, procurement, construction of substations, switch yards, transmission lines. The role that I currently am in with Beta, I'm responsible for the execution side of the business. So proposals, estimating, project management, engineering, and then field services, so construction, safety, quality. And then I have a counterpart that handles the front end of the business development, marketing, communications, accounting, finance, things like that. That's how we really split it up. I've been with Beta for a little over 2.5 years. Prior to that, with Crest Industries is the parent company. We're privately held that I'm a part of. I've been here right at 10 years. And so this is the third of our 8 business units that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of and to help lead. So prior to this, I led a sister company called Distran Package Substations for about 5 years. And then I was with another company under the Crest umbrella starting in 2016. Prior to that, I was actually in Ohio for a number of years in the oil and gas industry. So, as you know, Joe, when we came out of college in 2009, for me, um, the economy was in a challenging place, and so the oil and gas industry was still strong, and I got an opportunity to go in there. Um, Started at the bottom and spent the first half of my career there till I came back to Louisiana in 2016.
So, did you always think that you would end up in an executive role, or like what was your thoughts when, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed leaving college? What what did you think your future was going to be?
I was just very driven. I wanted to be successful, but my definition of success then and now, at 39, look a lot different. Um, I wanted to build things. I've always been passionate about it. My grandfather was a carpenter. Um, I remember the first thing I ever built. I built a birdhouse for my grandmother on one of his job sites. That's a core memory, and I always liked working with my hands. And um, I had aspirations to grow and learn as much as I can, but I can't say that I ever just said, I want to be an executive. I knew I wanted to start in the field. I mean
Yeah.
that's for sure. That's what I knew, and so I was okay with and excited about the opportunity to get out there and learn, hands on.
So what was that? What was some of the first field jobs that you had?
Well, it was very humbling, and so graduated college, went in the oil and gas industry, and was in the midstream sector. So a lot of treating and processing of the product. Um, I was in the Haynesville Shale, and I was ready to build the world. Thought I knew a lot. College degree. I'm ready to go to work, and I'll never forget. I actually interviewed with the company, and I was leaving that interview, and a gentleman stopped me in the hallway and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you if you have a minute." And he was over the operations for this company. And he said, I'd be interested in you coming to work on the operations side, learning, our processes, procedures, how these facilities work, because that'll be important if you ever want to build them. I'm like, well, that makes sense. I'm not sure it's what I want to do. And looking back, at the inflection points in my life, that's one of the best decisions I ever made. I started working shift work. Um, I'd work days, work nights. Um, we were building out these processing and compression facilities. And so I got to see the construction aspect going on, but then I was also responsible for the operations and learning it. So it was just a lot happening, a lot to learn. Um, and to be honest, I was bitter at first. I was like, man, this isn't what I went to school for and what I signed up for. And I said, I'm going to make the best out of it. And I remember on night shifts, I would nobody would be in the plant. I'd walk around with a set of P&IDs and learn, flows and temperatures and what is this piece of equipment. And if you went to that plant today, there's probably still my handwriting and things on some of that process piping. And I just said I'm going to make the best out of this opportunity, and I did that for a few years. And one of the supervisors there, I guess, saw that motivation and drive in me. And so when an opportunity came to um, build out the construction team in the Utica Shell, he put my name in the hat. And I'm very thankful for that. That was really my first um, real opportunity to do what I was interested in.
Thanks for sharing that. Can you point to one thing or maybe a handful of things that really, and I think maybe that was one of them, but are there any others that kind of change your trajectory to where you're sitting today? Because I mean, you've gone from, being a field hand to, you know, senior EVP in relatively short order. It's like, promotion about every 6 months. It's like what really turned that corner? Was there an event? Was there a person? Was it?
I think it's a little of all of it, to be honest. When I look back at my career, I'm a product of a handful of people that were willing to invest in me. And I see it kind of like chapters in a book. And um, Rob Evers was that supervisor that gave me the opportunity, that pushed me. I think he knew that wasn't where I was at that point in my time, early in my career. I was going to do everything that I could and give it my all, but that wasn't the end game for me. And I think he saw that and felt some obligation, responsibility to help me, to mentor me. Um, so Rob Evers was one of them. And then two guys in the field that were a lot older than me that I really respect to this day. I still talk to them, and that's been 20 years ago. Mr. Rick Sneed and Mr. Terry Hobach. Those two guys taught me the ins and outs of how everything works in the field. So I knew when I was building these facilities, what are those intricate, important components, the specialty things, you know, everything that you're doing up and downstream has an effect. And well, I was a sponge, and I would get out there with those guys and get my hands dirty and work with them and ask questions. And, um, they poured into me. And so, I get this opportunity to go to Ohio and start building these facilities now. And, who are the first guys that I call that I want up there doing the work? It's the same guys that helped teach me this stuff. And so, they came to Ohio and, worked on my projects. And then another gentleman is Mr. Leon Sneed. I knew processing facilities. I love that work, but I also had pipelines, so I'd be responsible for some of the incoming and outgoing lines associated with the build out of these stations that I was doing. And I'd never done pipeline work, and um, Leon had been around it his whole life, and I told him he was one of my chief inspectors, is what it would be called. And I said, "Hey, Leon, I know these facilities. I'm confident I've got the right team. We're going to get it done, but I've also got these pipelines and I've not done them. And, you know, but yet I'm your boss and, you've got about 40 years on me. But I'm willing to learn, and I'll support you, and get you what you need." And he will tell you today that, that's the first day that he respected me, that I was upfront and honest. I said, "Look, I don't know this, but I'm willing to learn." Um, and then later on, I would say Eddie Simpson was another individual, and it was more just life lessons, business, family. Um, we got this little thing every time we talk. We end our conversation with TCOB. Take care of business. Like, that's always been the thing, and he's been supporting of me, and still to this day. He was at my house a few weeks ago. So that handful of individuals, I really owe the credit to giving me time, intentional time, to help develop me, and I'm very thankful for it.
And how has all that shaped your leadership style?
And I love to win, Joe. I love to win,
Don't we all?
whatever it is. And so early on, um, and for a good part of my career, I was driven by success was meeting deadlines. It was tangibly building something. It was, um, starting a project and then coming back in a few years and like, there's this treating facility there. There's this substation there. Like I took pride in that. Um, and it's been since I've moved into Crest in the last 10 years, and our CEO has really invested a lot of time into his leaders, and to challenge us. And so the things that I'm aware of today and how I lead is completely different. It's probably been 4 or 5, 6 years ago now. My wife and I were having a conversation one afternoon, and she knew I loved that work in Ohio. I love the industry. I love the customers. I love my team. And it was like a drug. That's the best way, I couldn't get enough of it. And then, we ended up coming back to Louisiana, and, um, I wasn't sure that I was going to get that same fulfillment and satisfaction as I had. I knew I was here for a reason. But I still loved what I did there. And the difference was I had built those teams. I built those teams. They looked like me. They acted like me. We were driven the same way. Here, I come into a company where the teams were established for the most part. So I didn't have that. I had to learn to evaluate what was there and then, optimize the team. And what I realized through this journey is what I used to love in building a tangible product. My purpose today is to build people, investing in people and teams. And when done the right way, the end result, I don't care what it is. It's a substation today. It was a pipeline or a treating facility in the past. It could be a hotel tomorrow or what. The end result doesn't matter anymore for me, really. I still love that, but I enjoy building the people.
So speaking of people, what do you think separates those that are able to make that transition from starting in the field and working their way up the ladder, improving their station, whether that's, going a superintendent track or that's going from, a new graduate out of college that, is coming in as an APM or a project engineer or something, working their way up. What really separates those in your experience?
I think Patrick Lencioni says it best, the hungry, humble, smart. Um, if you're in the field, there is a geographic challenge naturally that comes from where a lot of the work is going on in the office. And, communication gets used a lot broad, things break down. It's like, oh, it's communication or this or that. But, there is a responsibility both ways in ensuring that your project management group, your estimating teams, your folks that are in the office recognize that we've got to work harder to communicate with our folks in the field, with those foremen and superintendent or project engineers out there, that we've got to over communicate to make sure that things that are happening here fluidly, they understand. And then also the other way around, there's there's a greater responsibility that the people in the field have to understand that, like, look, unfortunately, and it's not fair, but out of sight, out of mind. It's not easy to walk out like it is my office and stick my head in someone else and say, "Hey, did you hear about this? What are we doing there? How are we, uh, going to adjust to that?" So that speed to solution barrier just naturally exists, and so both sides have to work harder to stay more in tune, because naturally when you're in the field, you're outside of a lot of what is happening in the office, um, and vice versa. Making sure that the things that are completed every day or challenges that come up are given back here to the team that's supporting you in the office. Um, that's one of the biggest things. And then second is finding those opportunities to build relationships with the rest of the stakeholders that are on your team. So one thing that we do is our CMs that are between projects, we like to bring them back here in the office. We've had a guy in the Northeast in Maine. He's wrapping up a job. We're getting ready to kick off another one. And so he's going to be here in the office for a few weeks, spending time in the drawings, going through the subcontract contracts, learning his team, building rapport. And so when they go to kick that job off, like, they've got each other's back. So that's two big things that I think are very important.
Communication's can always be better. I've never been in a situation where communication, oh, we're good. Communication's great, but it can always be better. And I think early and often is kind of my mantra on that. But
Absolutely.
can you think of any habits or any traits that hold talent back? Like somebody has a lot of talent, but something is holding them back.
Intestinal fortitude. That's something my coach that want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is broader than just, here. I'm speaking of this through the lens of in my career as a whole. I'll take drive and motivation and ambition over, you know, technical expertise that lacks that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that's coachable, somebody that is willing to learn, somebody that's a team player. Um, those are the things that I think are important. You can take somebody that's willing to learn and teach them anything, but you can have someone that has all the potential, all the tools in the toolkit, but they're not willing to assert those things or um, be part of a team or face challenges. Those are the things that I've seen that have held people back, um, or wasted talent. You'll hear, for a sports analogy, they've got all the God-given gifts, but just don't do anything with them. And I've had to learn, and it's been challenging because I care about people so much in developing them. I can't want something for somebody more than they want it for themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And there's been situations like that I've come across, people I really care about, but they've got to want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen a lot of struggle over the years with folks that want to move up and take on more responsibility, and then they get the responsibility, especially the paperwork side of the thing. I hear that a lot. Oh, there's too much paperwork, and I want to say, like, you don't even know the half of it. Like, you
Right.
you got it pretty good, but I see folks struggle with that. And I don't know. I've seen some that have gone backwards. They get the responsibility and they say, I don't want it. I want to go back to just being responsible for myself. Um, there's some sort of shift that has to happen there, right? To do the uncomfortable and get comfortable with the uncomfortable, learn a new skill, um, I mean, I personally, I don't know if there's a way to teach that, or if there's um, a way to lead or manage someone into that uncomfortable space. You know, a lot of it, I feel like, is just, to your point, either you have it within you and you want to, or you don't, right? I mean, am I missing something there?
No, I think you're spot on. And I think that is a big part of our job as leaders, are to mind these things out, right? And I want to be clear, unequivocally, in like there's two different paths. There is a individual contributor role and there is a leadership role. Manager doesn't exist in my vocabulary. I want servant leaders, people who really care and understand the responsibility that they have to invest and grow other people. I mean, that's a responsibility. And so there's a misunderstanding, and I think it's pretty broad, across industry. I just think it's the society today is that to grow and advance, that it has to be into leadership. And one thing that we're, transparent about, trying to over communicate with our folks is it takes both. If you want to be a highly technical individual contributor, like we have to have that, and that's great. And you can continue growing in the organization, um, in role, responsibility, comp, all those things, and you don't have to lead people in an org chart. Now, those people sometimes are your greatest asset in influential leadership, in doing the things the right way and making others around them better. On the other hand, a lot of times we have these open conversations with our team members, and we have a process we go through to help filter this out. And we create what's called KRAs, key results areas. And, it's like, all right, here's the vision for the company. This is where we're going. Here's our goals that we're going to deliver on. Here's how your department fits into that. And then we want you, as an employee, a part of this team, to understand how you fit into that, right?
Mhm.
And it's aligning the business needs with their skill sets and competencies, and then what gets them up every day, like what's fun to them, what gives them fulfillment, and then really working to align those three things. And so when we find those that show up and aspire to lead people, first thing we tell them is this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. It's harder than any project work. It's harder than any paperwork,
Amen.
because no two are the same, which is what makes the world go round, right? But you've got to be sold out and really care about those individuals. And so we will find opportunities that align with our company strategy and say, we're going to take this person and we're going to start to build a little team around, right? Let's pilot it. Let's see how, we're not going to put them out there to not succeed, but you said it earlier, you got to be uncomfortable, and uncomfortable is growth. And so we'll feed that and feed it. And then, as that person builds confidence, as they build additional skill sets to support that, we just continue to build others around them. Kind of that organic uh, growth, and it's been successful for us and our people. But there's two paths, and neither one of them are wrong. The only
Right.
place that is wrong is if somebody feels like they're forced into one of those lanes to continue to grow in a business, and
Sure.
that's not the case.
So with all the growth that's happening across the industry, which is crazy, um, and that's, the people issue is exacerbated by the shortage of talent in the industry as well. So it, and I don't want to pick on younger generations, but every generation has its own identity, so to speak, and you know each new generation that comes along seems to want things quicker. They want things faster. They want to jump into things. And because of the way the state of the industry, they're getting their chance in a lot of areas. However, stepping into a leadership role in such an industry that is incredibly technical, and when we're building things, regardless of what it is, we're building things for society that puts humans at risk, right? It's like, my point in saying that is things have to be right. And these projects carry a ton of risk. And so knowing how to lead them, and also, I know you don't like the word manage them, is really important. And I think you have to have experience. Like, you cannot fake experience to be able to lead those things well. Some folks have just an innate inquisitive nature, and so they desire to learn, and they learn at a different pace than what others do. So, there are some anomalies there where I think there's some folks that can step up faster. But generally speaking, how does that feel to you? I mean, do you feel like there's some risk there? Are we getting over our skis, pushing folks up the ladder to fill the holes that are empty without that experience? Are there areas that we can step up on training development to help that, or are we just kind of putting ourselves and our industry at risk, putting folks in those positions? Or I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
It's very dynamic. I kind of, I'll approach this two-part: one, just broader industry, and then two, how we recognize the challenge and things that we work internally to try and mitigate those. So I'm 39 and I'm a dinosaur relative to technology. With a lot of the newer generation coming in, it's amazing at how, this stuff scales exponentially, right? And so what is really pushing myself and my peers across our other business units and our executive leadership team and our parent company, we're in a transition over the next, 5, 6, 7 years here with some key leadership. And our CEO, this will be the third generation that he's bringing into the business. Father started it, him and his brother run it now, and the G3's coming back, and one of them's actually back in the business working with us now. And we have some strategic planning offsites every year. And the industry that he's been in, and then coming in now, sitting in with, all the leaders of our businesses, and the way that he sees technology, the opportunities, the risks, it's really amazing. It's eye-opening. And so for us, guys that are leading these businesses, I've got 13 interns sitting in this office right now. It's the biggest cohort we've had. And it's like, we want to learn something from you. Like, we have our processes, we have our procedures, we have the way that the machine operates, but we want you to question things, like, because they're seeing the world through a completely different lens than we do. And so part one is like empowering these people to feel like they can ask these questions, right? To be discerning and engaged in everything. And like, okay, if that doesn't make sense, I want them to be like, hey, explain this, or why don't we do it this way? Those simple things so often help us to just, call time out and say, well, okay, we've done it that way. Why? And is this an opportunity to get better at it, to optimize that, to go to the next level? So we're really focusing, and part of our strategy is around leveraging the technology and this younger generation to teach us, expose us to things, to increase our productivity. Like, people is a constraint. We know that across all industries. How do we become more efficient with the resources that we have, right? And all that goes to the bottom line. So we're focused on that. It is a big a big risk as a whole. I think you got to acknowledge it. I think you have to put strategy in place as a business to say, like, it cannot deter me from where we're going and what's important. We've got to adapt with it. Because we can't do the work without the people, right? And so going back to making sure that you have good business strategy, we understand what these people are capable of doing. Like, what are their skill sets? What do we need to help develop them in? How do we fast track it? And at the end of the day, just because they're good at something doesn't mean that it gives them fulfillment or they're passionate about it. That's a thing I missed in a big part of my career is like, man, we need this done, and that person's very good at it. Will you go do that? Yes. But it doesn't mean that that's sustainable,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we spend a lot of time on trying to figure out, like, why does Joe get up and come to work here every day? He can go get a job. He can probably go get a job somewhere else that may pay him more money. But that whole purpose component and like I'm working on something bigger is what we try to double down on here. That I'm thankful for. I've been places where it wasn't like that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time. We're running out of time here, but one last question for anybody that's out there that says, I want to be in senior leadership one day. I'm hungry. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there. I know I need to learn what I don't know today, but I want to be a part of a good team, etc. What would you advise them on how to manage their career and what are some things that they can take away and to get to where you're sitting today?
Great question. I think you alluded to it earlier. A lot of people will say things. A lot of people want things, but a lot less are willing to do the work to bring it to fruition. And so um, you got to have vision. I think I'm working with some people here in our company now on that I have found my purpose and I'm living that and I'm fulfilled and it's I want to build what lasts and I don't want to just have great employees, successful business. Like I want to develop great people. And I'm challenging them. Like, who do you want to be when you grow up? Right. I think that's important. Like, what are your goals personally? What are your goals professionally and for your family? And you got to work through that. And when you really put that down on paper, now you're accountable to you. Nobody else has to know about it, but you can cheat no one but yourself. And then, after that vision, the purpose and values work, it's real work. It's meaningful work. It's ugly because I've got to understand what's important to me. And if I understand what's important to me, am I willing to do the right things every day that align to that so that I'm living out my values? Because if I'm not, I'm selling myself short. And so I think that's the fundamental baseline for all of it to me. If you understand these things, you write them out, you hold yourself to it. Like, this is what I want to do professionally, personally, whatever. Now you can create things to make it actionable. And don't let anybody tell you you can't. Find those people that are willing to invest and give you their time and soak it up and tell them thank you and ask lots of questions. Those are the things that have helped me and the people that I see do them. They create those opportunities for themselves. They're more equipped to take advantage of those things when they present themselves. It's just being prepared.
Three short phrases that I've carried with me, and then we'll close with this. One, my brother always says, "You're getting paid to learn. Whatever job you're in, you're getting paid to learn. So learn." Two, My uncles always said, "Go be somebody." Anytime I left their presence, they said, "Go be somebody." And an old Navy petty officer put it this way, and it's always stuck with me, and it's super simple. If you want something, go get it.
You got to be willing
Just go get
to
it.
put in effort, right? And I think a big thing is, if I look back at these inflection points in my career, it started with me being open and honest and saying, I don't know. And I think that's so hard for people
It
today. Like,
is.
people don't want to feel
Pride.
exposed.
Pride gets
It's
in the way.
pride.
Mhm.
And you know, those people telling me that back, like, hey, you were 20, 30, 40 years younger than I. You're my boss, but you treated me respectfully and you told me that you didn't know. I couldn't help the position that I had been given and the responsibility I had, right? But I was willing to say, look, we've all got a part to play in this. I'll help you and I'll teach you this. I need you to do the same for me. That created trust, which is the basis of everything, right? Um, and so yeah, there's things we all don't know. There's things I learn every day, and but I never want to quit learning, and I've got to continue to be okay with saying, even as a leader of this company, I've got a lot of engineers that are a heck of a lot smarter than I am.
Right.
And I'll say, look, I need you to break that down for me. Like, talk to me, um, where I understand what you're saying. And so that's a big part of it.
Well, I appreciate it, Jordy. Thank you for your time today, and hopefully you'll come see us again.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
You bet.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for being a good friend and somebody that from afar too has pushed me. Like, I see you being successful, and iron sharpens iron, man. So thank you for that, and keep kicking butt.
Appreciate it, Jordy. We'll talk to you.
Thank you.